Stop.
I'd like to call to order the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission meeting of Thursday, April 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Jay, can you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Favreau. Present. Commissioner Silvera,
Present.
Commissioner Loya, not present. Commissioner Landy,
Present.
Commissioner Kibbe.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Gaston.
Here.
Vice Chair Burns.
Here.
Chair Armstrong.
Here.
We have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Public comments. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at a time the item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned for each speaker. Jay, are there any comments?
Mr. Chair, would you like to accept the agenda?
Oh, wait,
before
can you do
the
that?
comment?
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Never mind. Reverse that. Oh, good. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the agenda as written?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Do I need to read that again?
No, you do not.
Okay. Are there any public comments?
Audience, are there any public comments?
No.
Are you sure?
God, no.
No public comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Remarks from the chair. Jay and Christine and I have had a very tempestuous past 3 weeks. We're going to address some of it later in the agenda. But on one hand, it was very emotional and thoughtful and, as I said, tense. But when I took a step back and took a more philosophical approach, I realized what was happening. And I discussed each of this with you individually. And that when years ago with the commission, it was just a lot of approval of donations to the city's art collection. The art commission would say, yes, this is acceptable, we like this, do that. And there wasn't a lot of big heavy lifting done by the commission. There would maybe be 1 or 2 pieces a year that the commission would do. But there wasn't a big push, and it wasn't anything that the city did a lot of work for. It was very small and focused. And then when a couple of commissions ago, when Ann Shepherd was the chair, she really brought in this energy of the idea of the role of public art in communities. And the commission grabbed that. Now, this was also during when COVID was happening, there was a shutdown. So there's a push to beautify the city and give people energy and encourage people to be outside because, again, it was COVID, you had to have separation. So it was a lot of murals that probably shouldn't have been done, but they were done. The painting of the benches and the painting of utility boxes, and it really brought art to the community. But it was still small ticket items. Each one was maybe $500 for the artists to do this. And it also was a way to keep local artists give them some money because they weren't getting money anywhere else. And so, you know, the benches are in our collection, the utility boxes are not, but that was a way to get art into the community. COVID stopped. Well, it's still happening, but it's theoretically stopped. And then Palm Springs kept buzzing along and humming along. And we just started doing some really big, interesting ideas and some things. And they were big call for artists. And the first big one was Pillars. And that was 6 artists, one time, $50,000 a pop, $300,000 in total. And that was a bear to get through. Not so much creatively and the call, but it really was retrofitting the city system. And the city system just wasn't using it. It kept choking on how do you process this? Even something as simple as how the artists were paid. Halfway through, Jay was like, because finance had written the contracts as though they were a purchase, not a project. So then that purchase was, you don't get any money till it's done. And the artist's like, we need money to do the work. So we had to redo that. And the contracts were redone and finance dealt with it. But that, again, it was a learning process through that. And then when we did the artscape, we knew that and we changed everything and we put it in there, treated it like a project, finance spot off on it. The system started to bend a little bit. And then we were just, again, pushing stuff through, but there's so much heavy lifting that goes on beyond when the decision is made, beyond when council approves it, and all of a sudden have to go to planning and the building department and even finance still. And so there's been some problems that have happened with Artscape in specific. Not anything to do with the commission, nothing to do with the artists, nothing to do with the project. It was all of a sudden there are some new California laws and rules that we have to follow as a city. And so how we're dealing with that. So as I said, on one hand, it's really frustrating, but on the other hand, it's because the work we're doing is real, big, and good work. And that's what you're going to be hearing about later today, or tonight, is Jay and I were going back and forth with the building official, and I said, can you prepare something for us to explain this to the commission? And he said, I'll come to the meeting and answer all questions. So he will be talking about that. But as I said, it's frustrating because we will not meet our deadline. The artists know that. They've all been aware of that. They all understand that and accept it. But the good news is, again, some stuff that sort of sat for a while is happening. Popsicles is going to be installed in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So something that's been sitting for 2 years is finally going to be installed. That's great. It'll be in a highly visible location in the city, which is great. And again, so that's kind of cool. So I guess my way of saying, you know, look, there may be problems, nothing to do with us. We're changing the system around us, and that's good. I continue to get feedback from, you know, the Parks Department and different council members and city staff that they love the work we're doing. They want to know how they can help us. And they are, but it's going to take a long time. So, okay. And that's that. The approval of the minutes. Would someone like to make a motion for approval of the minutes of March 6, 2025 and the March 6, 2025 special meeting?
I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the March 6th meeting, regular meeting, and the special meeting.
Okay. Someone like to second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up. Discuss Artscape projection, project installation delays and city's permit process with Q&A with Dana McAllister. Dana, I told them you could 5:45, I need to talk for 5 more minutes. So Dana, I want to give Dana a little preamble before he walks in. Dana and I first met during Pillars. He was new to the city. The new building officially came in and he knew we were having problems with getting the permits done. And he was really the first department head that said, let's sit down face to face and figure this out. And Dana pulled in different people and because he felt that they needed to meet the artists and hear what the artists were doing. So Dana and everybody really embraces public art. There's no one that says you don't want to be doing that. Why are you spending money doing that? They all do that. And so Dana was the first one to say, here's what we can do. Here's how we can change this. And so if we need anything that's again in the building department. And the challenge for us is every piece of art that goes into the ground, the city treats as a building. So it's reviewed as a building in terms of the inspections and the approval and the permitting process. Okay, we can't talk anymore. Anything you want to say, Jay, while we wait for Dana?
Well, do you want to go on to any of the next?
Well, can I jump to the next one? Yeah, let's do World Art Day. Let's jump ahead to World Art Day. You three are doing World Art Day, correct? Why don't you just give us a brief update? You don't need to go through everything specifically.
Yeah, everything we discussed in the last meeting, the activities, the hat painting, the art inventory map, which you'll find in the back of your packet. The one word for crawler activity and the postcards, they're all a go. Big shout out to the Park and Rec Department for giving us a lot of the materials for the booth. The only thing we don't have is the Public Arts Commission tablecloth. One does exist because Natasha had a picture of it, but we can't seem to find it. So our booth won't recognize us.
I think I have a tablecloth.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, actually, table.
Okay. It says Palm Springs Arts Commission.
I'll have to double
Barrett
check
had it
if
at
it
one
says
point.
anything. Barrett had it and he dropped it off.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the same one.
Okay, do you want to give it to Crystal Lynn? I think she's kind of like coordinating all the materials, or do you want me to come up and get it from you?
However you like. Who would I give it to?
Crystal Lynn?
Crystal Lynn.
Yeah, she's the one coordinating all the materials for it.
Okay,
And I'll send her an email that you have it.
okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the art map in the back of the packet here. So there's gonna be two, we're gonna have these on our booth, for the public, and the QR code goes to a Google map, which has, the public art, map. It is a smaller version of the public arts inventory, basically not including any, proprietary information that belongs to the city, but just a map of the public art where the public can scan, see the locations, and even use Google Maps to direct how long it's gonna take, where it is, and basic information, year of install, artist name, the name of the artwork. And so we hope that would increase awareness for some of the pieces in our collection and encourage people to go out and explore our collection.
So what time will you guys be on site on?
It's from 10 to 2, right? So
Zoom?
It's the event's from 10 to 2, we'll be there like by 9:30 or. I think Crystal will tell us when to show up, like when to set up the booth.
Yeah.
The booth is gonna be next to or close to Crawler, so we'll be in that the area.
yeah, and one of the activities is to encourage people to look at Crawler, or there's other art pieces in our collection there that we could direct them to and just have them write what they think of it, or even just a one-word reaction. And that's what those little heart letters or something. Yeah, so the Post-its, and so we're going to be encouraging people to plant them near Crawler, so like a little word garden. And then Carlos has the postcards, right? So
Tape here to protect against the
Yeah.
dust.
So I have that big box, and then this will be on the box, and it will encourage people to write a little note to a friend or family member and about that public art that they see on the postcard. And then we'll have stamps available. I think it's Crystal Lynn, right? Crystal Lynn has about 50 stamps for us, so they can stamp it right there, drop it in the little mailbox, and then one of us will drop them off at.
Did we talk to Crystal about the planters with sand?
Yes, I
No.
talked to her about it. And
Does she have it?
she does, she's not 100% convinced that they can fill the sand. Fill the plant with sand.
I can bring sand if that's the case.
Um,
Oh, well, I talked to her yesterday. I'll talk to her.
okay, yeah, confirm with her first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do just one thing. I'll be with my Zell students that Saturday. They're painting one of the panels, my senior art students. So probably I'll be going back and forth from 10 to 12. After 12, I'll be with you guys all the time. But the paintings, the panels are where that graffiti is. So, and the Crawler is the other side. So I'll be going back and forth between 10 and 12 to check on my students. But then after 12, I'll be with you guys until 2.
It's
Okay?
not that far, Carlos.
I think it's huge. Well, with all the people that I have to cross and everything.
and
And the
then
mission.
just a little thing that, I'm trying to convince Jay to let me do, but I was with him today looking at some of the public art within City Hall, and I discovered a few little maquettes of some of our public art. And so I was like, Jay, can we get those maquettes and have them on display at our booth in World Art Day? And I'm like,
They're very portable. That would be my concern, that somebody could pick it up and walk away with it. But we'll look at some options.
So I think that would be really fun to have people come to our booth and actually see little miniatures of some of the pieces in our collection. And then we can tell them, oh, you like that? Well, you could see the full version if you scan this, and then I'll point them exactly where on the map it is, and then they can choose to go find it. So we'll see.
And that is the Saturday,
April 5th.
April
12.
Oh, 12.
12th, great, okay, so everybody go, everybody support public art. And we have a special guest here. Dana, you missed my introduction to you, as I was trying to like spread the time. Talking about how we first met through pillars and how there were challenges with pillars, but we worked through them, and how I wanted everybody in the commission and the public to know that your department fully embraces public art. And if there's challenges or problems with it, it's not because you were editorializing, saying you don't like the art or any art. It's just, they're very systems oriented, and that's how we want them to be. Okay, so Dana McAllister, this is the Public Art Commission. Well, and you have a presentation, you said, correct?
Yeah, good evening, and yeah, is it a good place for me to stand so everybody?
Yeah, if you could sit and speak into the mic, because we are.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And make sure the mic is turned up, there's a mic turned on.
Sure.
Great.
There we go. Let's put my glasses on. So, I know Jay, you were joking that I did a presentation last week, totally different presentation except for slide 1. So, so we threw this together really quick today, so please excuse any typos or anything like that. But basically, the system that we use now is the Energov, it's now known as EPL, Enterprise Permitting Licensing, something like that, permitting software. And in May of 2023, a few months before I had started, the Building and Safety Department went live with that system. They were previously on kind of a hybrid paper and computer system at that time. But the intent of using Energov was to have everything electronic, everything could be done online, and also so everything from other departments was done online, so they all work together. To use Energov, the applicants create a secure account to apply for permits. It's almost like creating a bank account or something like that, or a credit card login. That is how that they access their information. So each contractor or homeowner that's building something with a contractor affidavit, they can set up an account, and every permit that they pull after that will be linked to that account. So they want to use that account through the entire process, because that's how they schedule inspections as well. The nice thing about EPL is that it has fail-safes built into it. So if we're missing a specific piece of information, it won't let us move forward in the process. With the old paper or manual process, things could get skipped, they could get lost. And this is actually, everything is in the system. So if we don't put it into the system, it won't let us move forward to the next step. So the first step in the permitting process is to apply. So people will create an account and apply for the permit on Palm Springs Online. The second item would be the permit center technician looks at the application online and verifies that all the information is there. So that's kind of that's the one big change with EPL. The requirements haven't changed. It's just the time that we look for them. So we used to accept the required documentation throughout the process. The new process requires it all to be submitted up front, so we can just review it and get it approved. The review process, after we've got all the information that we need, the plans exam supervisor says, okay, well, planning needs to see this, engineering needs to see this, facilities, they route it to all the other departments. So that was the point of EPL, being able to route all that information to the other departments and review them at the same time concurrently. Once all the departments have approved the plans, then it goes into a status called ready to fee. It goes back to the permit technician, they calculate the fees, and then they notify the applicant that the invoice is ready to be paid online. Once the permit has been paid for and it's issued, the inspector or the contractor schedules the inspections. The inspectors go out, verify everything meets code and matches the plans, and then they close out the permit. The nice thing about our new comprehensive fee schedule is if it gets approved, we're going to have fees automatically calculated. So that'll reduce a whole nother step in EPL, which makes it even faster. So creating an account's pretty easy. And I apologize, it's all a little bit small, But when they go online, first step is to basically enter the email address, enter all your information, just like you create any other type of account. And with this one, let's see, enter code. So what it does, and I have my own accounts that I kind of mess around with to make sure that everything's functioning. It sends a code to my phone. So when I'm ready to log in, it sends a code to my phone. I enter the code, I'm in. And let's see this one. There's also a few other registration steps that you have to add in there, personal information. But again, once this account is set up, it doesn't have to be changed again. You just log in and start applying for permits. So that's the next step. So when you're ready to apply and you're logged into the system, you would go to application assistant. So for our projects, they always fall under building commercial new. And we currently have 42 permit types. With the new fee schedule, if it gets approved, we're going down to 14. It just makes it a lot easier to select what you need. But for the purposes of your artists, they would always be using the commercial new, which is that one right there. So
And why do you consider art a building?
it's a structure. So basically, it's a structure. It's a very vague definition of the code. It's basically anything that is built or constructed, right? But it could potentially, with the size of some of these, could fall over, could hurt somebody is one thing, but also we're worried about the long-term financial interests of the city. So we want to make sure that these art pieces stay up for as long as possible. If they're not built the right way, they could fall over the next year, and then the city is responsible for fixing them, replacing them. So we want to make sure that they're built safely and that they're going to be there for as long as we want them to be.
Can I ask a good question?
Of course.
The permit is just for outdoor art, not for art that's in like paintings, and you don't.
Oh, correct. Yeah, exactly. No, painting wouldn't apply. And there's pretty much anything that's outdoor that has a foundation. So if it's indoor, yeah, no, something like installations at the art museum, even installations here that are going indoors, they wouldn't need a building permit. Well, one of the key things is movable. I know Gary and I talked about that before. If it's a movable piece, then it's not required to be permitted. So, and I think there was, I don't know if they had done, there was a lawn chair.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. So the next step after they apply would be pick the address. So we're actually working with our GIS team. We're almost at the point where you can go onto a map and select property. I have heard that some of the parks don't have addresses. We're working on that right now. Some do. The buildings have addresses, but I think prior to this, they didn't address the actual like park area, the open park area.
Is it the same thing with pillars where the medians don't have addresses?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they were told to put in the city hall, which is historic, which then put a big block on permits immediately.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It's tough because the EPL requires the work to be tied to an address. So yeah, we've been trying to find some workarounds as well for that. So the next step is picking the address, and for a park, it should be fairly easy. We can get an address issued if there isn't one. And the next one is basically to do a little description in there at the end. This one says Ruth Hardy Park Art Installation. It can be as simple as that. I mean, we're going to have the plans. Valuation, it's required now, but again, if our comprehensive fee schedule is approved, we're going to a square foot base on it, and it would meet minimum. So it'll look different than this, but it'll be even easier to do.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Since the pieces come with a fixed price, how does that work?
So yeah, so whatever currently until things change, it would be the value of the art piece. So yeah,
And you're saying valuation, and that's for insurance reasons.
it's actually for fee calculation purposes. We found that in fact most departments across the country are going to a square footage based fee schedule. It's just a lot easier. I don't know why. For years they were using valuation.
Okay.
So, but the current fees are based on valuation.
Okay.
So that's for fee calculation. So next step is to add the contacts. And so basically the state of California requires that anybody that does work, they have to be licensed as a contractor with the state of California. They do criminal background checks. They have to pass code compliance or code knowledge tests. They also have to have insurance, liability insurance, workman compensation. So that's why that is there. And we also include a link to the contractor affidavit so they fill it out and attach it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does the artists themselves have to fill in that requirement, or, because I know some of them do have fabricators that they work with, and the fabricator bears that responsibility in terms of being a licensed contractor and then having the insurance. So, how does that work?
It would be whoever's installing it on site. So I know sometimes they're, in fact, most of the time they fabricated offsite. We usually look when we're doing the plan review just for welding certifications and things like that. This would be for whoever is going to be installing it on site, probably with a lot of these projects doing the foundation work.
And just as FYI, this was the part that choked Artscape, is the art, historically, the artists have done their own installation. And then all of a sudden they have to be licensed contractors in the state of California, and most artists are not. And so these two gentlemen are creating a little workaround on that, just so we can move forward, but moving forward, we're gonna need to work through the system. And as I said, when I think back to other installations of previous years, it was the artist pulling a station wagon in the middle of the night and just sort of putting it on the tab and driving off.
Yeah, and I think we had some other discussions, and they're continuing on the city. The city can do it as the contractor, but we're gonna work out that system for it. So that's the next step, basically putting in the contractor information. The next is for them basically to drag and drop the plans. So that's the nice thing about the system as well. When they're on their desktop, they just drag it over, and you can see on these are ones that have already been brought over into the system. Additional files is the contractor declaration, complete building plan, structural plans. So those are all the things that we look for once it gets to plan review. So this is just kind of a quick example of incomplete plans, hard to read, and I know but basically the issue with this is it says footing, right? So we don't know the depth of the footing. We don't really know the size of the footing. We don't know the size of the rebar on the footing. We need to know the bolts. We need to know the type of bolts. So if there's any high wind situations, and in some areas of the city, we're actually rated up to 130 miles an hour, closer to the wash, of course. We want to make sure that the engineer has looked at this and verified that this can't come loose in a high wind event. So we need those details for the inspector and as well as the plan reviewer to just verify that each individual piece. So
And backing this up, that's one of the reasons why we always ask for previous public art that the artist has done.
Hmm.
And if it's in a city that we know has strong ordinances, generally they work to be accepted.
I can definitely say the piece quality. I believe that artist had done work in West Hollywood. Excellent to work with. They knew all the requirements, and yeah, so that definitely
It's not fresh hour, yeah.
Yeah, no, really, it was a pleasure working with them. So this is a good set in Crawler as well. They really stepped up and gave us a good set of plans. So it's hard to see here, but there's a lot of detail in there as far as the size of the bolts and the rebar and everything. And this is the stuff that we can inspect in the field and verify, yes, this particular bolt was installed, this particular type of rebar, and it all lines up with the engineer's plans. Yeah. So once they get to inspections, and this is really on the contractor, and I'll go through it real quick. The contractor can actually go in to their account. They'll have all their permits listed. They click on my work, my permits, then they click on the specific permit it is. Then they can go in, there's little check boxes there. They can check on which inspection they want, and they can go to right there, request. And then they put in the information. This is unique to each inspection, so whoever's going to be on site, the contractor can put that information in, put their contact number, even special notes like park over here, or this is the gate code, or things like that. They can put it in that notes field, and that'll show up in the inspection.
Can I just a real quick question, please?
Sure.
So at the beginning, you said that, so it's really the contractor that is inputting all this data, not
Correct. Well, exactly. Yes. So they would upload. But what we do during that application process is we're more than happy to work with everyone involved, but we want our primary contact to be the contractor, because they're the ones that are going to be responsible for the account and then also scheduling the inspections. So previously, when we had multiple people on those accounts, the system couldn't recognize it, so contractors couldn't schedule inspections. So they would have to reach out to the applicant would have to schedule the inspections, and it's much more streamlined when we have the contractor doing it.
Okay, so then going back to my question about valuation, then it's really not the valuation of piece of art, then it's the cost of the work for the contract.
It's unclear. If it was a house, it would be for the entire house, right? Yeah, for a piece of art. Yeah, I mean, you could do the total project cost. You could do the cost of the artwork. It would honestly, the way the system's set up now, you're probably gonna arrive at the same fees anyways, because it's not that big a difference. It's really when you get those higher fees that they start changing. But again, that's gonna go away in June anyways, or I hope it'll go away, so we're going to square footage, so.
Well, that's why I asked the first question, because how do you evaluate a piece of art on a square footage basis? So it's really the foundation that's being evaluated, which is very different from the cost of a piece of art.
It's a minimum, exactly, yeah, so there's a minimum cost that it would fall under, so I think you'll actually
But that's
probably
just
see
to
a
dictate the
reduction.
permit.
Exactly, yes, that's just applying for the price. So you basically enter that information at the beginning and then the system calculates a number based on the valuation. So like I said, I'm hoping we'll get our fee schedule approved and it'll go to square footage base, and these will all probably fall under a minimum size. So I think you'll actually probably see some of the costs go down.
And do you foresee with this system in the new world order, that an artist who maybe isn't a licensed contractor would just hire a licensed contractor to do this access work for them and get everything approved?
That's exactly what we'd like
But
to
the
do.
artist
Yep.
is still doing their own work the way they would normally.
Correct. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. We have no problem with the artist being involved in the process. We just want the contractor to be the lead and the contact through the process.
So the fees would be available, so if it's square footage, for example, you have a 10 by 20 foundation, put that in, calculate the fee, because when an artist is submitting to us, their line item budget has to include permits and fees. So they're able to assess that from us. Somewhere the fees are public.
Yes, so there's a comprehensive fee schedule published on the website, and we also have it on a link on the building department website. I can honestly say the current fee schedule that was developed like 10 years ago, that's 13 pages long and very difficult to understand. Our new fee schedule, you could figure it out in 5 minutes. So yeah, no, I think it's once we go to that new fee schedule, it's going to be very easy for the artist.
One of the things that Dana and I discussed, and I don't know if it's been formalized yet, is that I personally don't feel that when the art commissions work, when we originate and we're paying for everything, the artist should not pay a permit fee, because they're basically paying a fee out of the money the city is giving them. So it's taking money from one pocket, just putting it into another pocket. And now I think that things that are privately funded and then donated to the city, that's different. But because if it's using city money already, why are we saying, oh, you have to pay us more money? And that really just goes to get Dana lunch.
Yeah, no, I was working with Jay a little bit on that and trying to figure out a good system for how we basically kind of move the money around. So we obviously want to kind of show the fees, but you're right. I mean, if it's just going from one account in the city to another, I probably maybe even Chris Mooney would be a better person to comment on that than me.
I'm sensitive to that. I don't think that anything we are choosing and commissioning, we should be paying for.
So then the artist gets to exclude that from their estimate as well.
If we're saying this is a $50,000 commission, why are we making the artist pay permit fee when it's really money? This is it. So
we're definitely very flexible on that. So yeah, whatever needs to be done to make it work for the Arts Commission and the city.
it's not formal yet, but the discussion's there and we want to get it done. Just does not make sense.
Yeah,
So commission work will sidestep the payment of fees for permitting.
We're attempting that. We just need a formal.
Yes. Is the EPL, is this system from an outside vendor and it's been customized for the city and its regulations, or is it built for this city?
So it's a little both. It's Tyler, and they're a big company, and a lot of departments in California use it. Typically, when cities purchase them, they do a little bit of customization. We've actually found with this one, after I started, they tried to customize to the old paper process, but we need to kind of use the system the way it was built as well. So that's been part of the growing pains with it. We're trying to change it so we can use the system the way it was intended to be used. And the closer we get to it, the better it's working. So
Right. And it's a system that's optimized for the development of buildings. And we are glomming onto it the creation and commissioning of art.
Yeah, this is really the construction and fabrication of the art, but this is really only what I was saying about waiving the fees, only if we commission the work. It's not like if an artist comes to us and say, hey, I want you guys to buy this, or, something like the original installation of popsicles that would have had to pay the permit fee. Right, because,
Popsicles and neighbors do present a bunch of complexities that I won't ask about
yeah,
today. But I
and-
would like to ask you
Yeah.
briefly, did I also hear you say, thanks for being,
Oh, no problem.
that art that is movable is exempt from the permitting process?
Correct, yeah.
But large things could still fall over and be.
They could. It's one of those things in the building code, if if it doesn't have a foundation, it's technically not, it's not permanently affixed. It falls outside of that. So it's you're right, it's still a structure, but for the same reason that trailers and things like that, I think recently we had a ATM trailer over Bank of America that it was a trailer. So technically it wasn't a structure, so it wasn't permanent. It was a.
So, and I'll talk about that at the end, but there was, and I'm just remembering, right when I was joining the commission, there were a couple instances where artists came and the public art contribution was paying the fee at the permit fee at that point. Now that it's, it's so entrenched into how we do our work, it doesn't make sense. We're eating up our budget, paying another department.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, no problem. Nope. Actually, we're getting close here at the end anyway. So yeah. So they enter that information. They submitted. The inspections show up on the list, but for the day they're scheduled for. Let's see. And then it's hard to read here, but the inspector puts their notes in here in the comments. So it's a lot of times it's passed, sometimes it's not, but the notes are there for the contractor to see, so they can read it in the field. Let's see. That's that, and that's it.
Okay. Well, I have two questions that one I sort of teased Dana with, because I said, I'm gonna ask this. This is important, and especially something we're dealing with. And Roger Reutemann, who's doing what's it called? Parkside Gossip is the name of the beautiful shade construction. And he asked permission to move his installation back. Because he said, it's a cement foundation and you can't pour cement and have it cure when it's over 98 degrees outside. And he said that he's done it and it cracks. And so we said, yeah, look, September, October's fine. And then I did some digging on it. They said that, yeah, you need to, there's treatments you need to do because what happens is the water evaporates as it's curing. It's supposed to cure for 30 days. Water evaporates and the cement cracks and it crumbles. May not immediately, but it eventually will be less stable for something that's in the wind or something like that. And so I asked Dana, and he can answer, through this approval process, through all the permitting and the inspection, is there anybody who's looking at the environmental issues, or are they just sort of following the rules that yes, you submitted your permit and yes, you met the obligation? Is there someone saying, hey, you shouldn't have poured this in August through the system? And really the question is, does the commission need to be aware of that when we approve things and approve budgets and timetables with artists? So.
Oh, yes, of course. So in certain projects, there are special inspection requirements, usually for larger projects, such as hotels. For something small like this, it really falls on the contractor to basically build everything to code. So that's why it's especially important to have a state licensed contractor familiar with the California building codes to make sure that they are building this in accordance with code and the manufacturer or the accepted trade practices, like you said, pouring in high heat. So, yeah.
So would code cover somebody pouring concrete in July?
They can, absolutely, as long as they do it properly. And I believe ACI is the overarching code for that one. So they just have to pour it in accordance with those requirements.
And then the last one is we have some piece of art like the horses that were in the middle of Tuckwitz that are going down by the Washington North Riverside, and Lot G that we went through in terms of how we do installations there. And we determined, we can put them on metal plates. Metal plates are just as heavy, but they won't be cement in the ground. We don't need a permit for that.
No, not if they're movable. And I think facilities really like that idea as well, because whenever we dig, there's potentially sprinkler lines, gas lines, electrical lines. If it's sitting on the ground, don't have to worry about damaging any of those systems.
So roundabout way of saying we should always consider doing the metal plates rather than cement, because we don't get into permitting. They're movable, so the Parks Department will love it. And then you don't have to pay more money, rerouting irrigation and all that, and electrical and all that sort of stuff.
But I'm assuming there's still an option to possibly maybe bolt the metal plates onto the ground soil itself, or not. You don't want them to be too movable, because then there's a risk of that, or
They're heavy. They're very, very heavy. In fact, they need a crane to move just one. It's not like, college kids are gonna get up and lift
Okay.
it.
I think we talked a little bit about too, about having a little crushed stone on it or something like that for some additional weight, but yeah, they are thick and very heavy,
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
and this is part of the obligation of the art commission is to also think about what the foundation is as well. Some things need to cement, some things need to be elevated. But something like the horses, where they're going, steel plates are great. Or other things too, there could be other ways to get something foundation.
So what's going on with, I was CC'd on the dancer emails, and I know that was an issue with the developer and contractor, so what's going on with those pieces that were originally scheduled for meetings?
So what's happening is the city is building the foundations.
Okay.
Because the city has licensed contractors and the artists are not licensed contractors. The city's building the foundation, they've got all the specifications, it's just gonna take them some time to do them. But the city has agreed to do everything, that's what the delay is. We can't rely on the city to do all of our foundations. So, but in this situation, they're going to. So if you had May 19th on your calendar to launch installations, take it off. Any other questions for Dana? As I said, Dana and his team are methodical and everything is with intent. Any problem that they put a flag on is not an aesthetic issue. They're not editorializing on the art. They're just following the rules. And so I try and be respectful of that. And I only call on Dana when there's, soul crushing answer and the artist is for you.
Well, anytime, no, anybody on the commission as well, feel free to reach out with any questions. That's what we're here for. So thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Chair, we have a question from the audience.
Sure.
Are we allowed to do that? For a guess?
It's up to you.
I think it's, it's not your mother or anything.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Sure, go for it. Oh, it's Jim Eisenman. Okay, yeah, he can ask. We invited him.
Hi, that was super helpful. And I was just wondering if that PowerPoint will be available to artists to share with their contractors.
Yeah, it's funny. We threw it together today. Let me clean it up and I'd be happy to send it off to Gary. Absolutely.
I think it's the sort of thing that Jay can have and then just send out as needed.
Oh, sure. You want me to send it to you? Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was it. That's our question. That's it. Okay. Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, crawler dedication. We are doing the crawler dedication on World Art Day, April 15th.
Wait, because World Art Day is 12.
No, World Art Day is April 15th.
It is?
It's April 15th every year, Leonardo da Vinci's birthday,
Oh,
April 15th.
Isn't
So-
it Saturday?
Saturday, the 12th is when they're celebrating World Art Day in the park, but it's
Yeah,
not
so-
World Art Day.
the World.
Okay,
World
but
Art
the
Day,
park thing is the 12th.
It's
So
separate.
it's a separate
Okay,
thing.
all
So
right.
World Art Day, the event versus World Art Day, the holiday.
The day. We are doing, and we've done World Art Day installations the past 3 years, including this one. Previous one was Pillars, and the one before that, we did the 3 John Clement pieces in Dewey Park. And the mayor will be speaking. This will be held in front of City Hall, in front of the museum by the sculpture. So, 10:30. There will be an invitation and a press release being sent out by our communications team. But it will be April 15th, Tuesday at 10:30. Invite your friends.
Will you also be making?
I will be saying some words.
Great.
I wrote them and I'll probably end up doing every third word. Okay, next up, Beautiful Shade, as I said, Beautiful Shade, we allowed Roger to push it back to October installation due to concrete issues that he was afraid of the way his concrete is being done. And I know the contracts are being finalized with Roger and with the Dragonfly team.
That's correct.
Yeah, right. So
May I ask just a question about that? Is there an issue other than? Is there timing? Does that affect us timing wise in any other way? Because. As a contractor, knowing you can actually anytime you are. And it just is about carrying and time of the day that you pour it, et cetera.
The,
And does it matter to us really? The timing of the install, so.
no, for us, no, it doesn't matter for us. And that's why I said, we don't have a deadline. If he wants to move it back, let's let him move it back. There's. We've only had hard deadlines, as I said, for pillars, because we wanted to be World Art Day, and we said April 15th. And then originally with the Artscape, we thought, let's get them in before Memorial Day, when people are in parks and celebration would be nice, but we can't and we can. We want the pieces to be secured, we don't want them to blow over. When Jay and I went on site inspections with this facilities team in Victoria Park, it was windy. And in Desert Highland, it was windier. And they just said, we have to ensure, and I said, we want stability, there's no deadline, get it right.
Can I add something to that? Because it's something I've been thinking about since our little presentation. I live in central Palm Springs, and the other day the wind was incredible for like about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Shook my entire house. I was freaked out a little bit, going, "What the hell is going on?" And I'm just wondering, as it relates to our initiatives in parks, obviously, further north that you go in our city, the wind is a real factor. And I'm thinking some of the designs we saw may, I think we should probably consider the environmental factor with some of those designs and approvals. And I know it's going to be difficult, and I don't want to complicate the process anymore, but knowing what parks we're working with should probably have an effect on the design of things that get approved, because something that's delicate is not going to last a season of wind.
Yeah, so the one that's in Desert Highland actually is the 3 big cactuses, and it's completely perforated. Perfect. It's everything about it is perforated, and facilities even said, "It may whistle." Great, okay. And then the other one is the dog is in Victoria Park. The dog has 2 holes in the body, as you can see, the artist did it. That will come out if it's durable in engineering's review. And as I said, if they come out and say this will not withstand the wind in this specific location, then we can move it to Demuth Park. Demuth Park is less windy and it's big, and we will deal with that point. But up till now, engineering will deal with that.
So to further that discussion, because I think it's a good idea for further review when other new pieces come from we're reviewing. Because I don't think engineering actually does wind studies to determine, the velocity of high-end winds, how something might act as a sail. They expect that to come in from, when you submit, that's an engineering report, and I doubt that artists are looking at that as a study that they need to do on a piece. And so if it's a large aluminum piece, even if it might be in some cases perforated, it could act as a sail. So I think that's a very valuable thing.
So the specification calls for being rated for 130-mile-per-hour wind. And I think as we get these through now, they're going to be looking at that same criteria. Yeah, and the engineers stamp and put their license on the line by stamping the piece.
Yeah, it's not only the piece, but how it's bolted to the.
I didn't realize they were.
Yeah, they've already, but as I said, depending on the orientation of the piece, if it's facing the wind, where the wind goes the other way, and that's why I said, get the engineers on there. If they say this will not work in Victoria Park, we can move it to Demuth Park. But Desert Highlands trees, I'm confident will be fine. They're not that tall, unless it's fully perforated. And as I said, the one in Barristo is perforated, and the one in Gateway Park doesn't have a lot of broad structure to it. It's got the sedan, so it's got a lot of movement and shape already. So.
Does it move?
No, but I mean the angles of it. Yeah. Art maintenance inventory. That was Natasha, and I would like to publicly congratulate Natasha. And I know Gina's been helping with it, but she's been doing all the programming. This is a lot of work. It's a ton of work, and so congratulations.
Yeah, and it's a lot, but it's still not complete. So far, utilizing various sources, and documentation. I've counted at least 150 something pieces in the collection, and so the process now is just verifying that those pieces actually belong to the city, and then also figuring out ways we can manage the inventory in terms of placement of the art, and then also maintenance, which I'm gonna present. Jay, will I be able to get that email pulled up with the art inventory map?
We can try that.
Yeah, so I know I sent, or I had Jay send everyone, the links. So two Google Maps, one of them is the, arts inventory map. And that is different from the public, map that will be presented in World Art Day. So that inventory map has, the locations of the art pieces, and then also, adding links to, the cloud drive where I'm putting documentation and information of the art pieces there. And then another map that was linked has the locations of city-owned properties and the parks. John here also let me know that the Parks Department has is able to utilize the trailheads, some of the trails in the city as well. So I listed those on the map. What I'm trying to figure out too is also the possibility of including the school district as well, because in my investigations, I still have to verify this, but one of the art pieces that we have, a second lawn chair actually has its location in LCL or Cielo Vista Elementary. So yeah, so I'm
I
trying to
haven't
figure
heard
out.
of that.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how that came to be. And trying to figure out if that is a possibility that we could also place art in school districts. I haven't verified that yet. And then oh, that's with
Oh.
the most recent email, remember?
The email that went out today, I guess for those maps, I couldn't open them.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you couldn't open it?
This one, I was able to open this one.
Not this one.
No,
Yeah.
the map you can open, but the ones that were sent today with the maintenance.
Oh, okay.
I can, yeah, those, I could not, sorry. So what I mentioned in Natasha is that I looked
So
through
I
the
can-
map and
if you
everything,
can-
and there was a lot there that I felt I'd never heard of this public art. I've seen it, I just, it never come up. So what I'm gonna,
To share with the public.
we will work privately and I'll go through it and just the ones that I don't think are technically public art, or part of the public art collection. And then verify that, I will send it to some of the previous chairs of the commission because they've been around for 12 years and they would know something just because our institutional knowledge can be lacking. So the chair leaves, a lot of it's not in writing.
Well, that may also relate to the Wikipedia entry section.
Yeah.
That listed
Yes.
public art in Palm
Yeah,
Springs.
and it's like this is public art. It's, so hopefully we'll get this cleaned up
Mhm.
and there may be things that were donated onto a location and was never formally accepted in the collection.
Yeah, so
There's many ways, as I said, many ways it could happen. When I went into the library to talk to them about their expansion, they're like, oh, we have this piece here and this piece here. I'm like, where did those come from?
exactly.
Oh, somebody died and the family gave it to us. Like, well, that's technically public art if it's art on city property. So once we get this done, once we get everything lined up and there are pieces that people think of as public art that are not, I think what we'll do is we'll probably line up a blanket document with everything in there and then we'll just legally accept it into the collection. 15 pieces, whatever it is.
So this is the map as it is now, and I made sure that all the commissioners do have access to the cloud drive as well. And so you can use that for your reference, commissioners, just if you want to see where all of the art is. And they are denoted by type of material. So the different colors denote the type of material and also the kind of art piece they are. So murals are one color, steel, bronze, mixed media and paintings and murals, and we even have some glass pieces there too. So they're in there. And then Jake and good. So and then here is the map of city-owned properties, and this was a surprise to me here. The one all the way up here is the train station, and apparently that is under the purview of the city as well. So green denotes park recreation, green denotes city properties, and then purple is the parks and trails. So would encourage commissioners to utilize this and check out the locations too, if they want to see if any of those locations would be appropriate for public art. And like I said, once I get verification, if we can work with the school district, I'll probably add those there as well.
Can I just ask for clarification? I'm sorry. So this is just designating sites where art can be installed or art is installed?
This one right here is possible locations for public art because these properties are owned by the city, or the city has jurisdiction over them. If we could do a public-private sponsorship for a public art piece, we certainly can, but right now these are the ones that the city owns and will be able to put art there.
This is such interesting research. I was really impressed when I saw this come across our email. Right now, this is an exercise that is authored by you on Google. Is the vision for this to then transmit over and at some point it becomes the author of record becomes either the commission or the city's IT
Yes.
department?
So I've actually been talking with the Parks and Recs department and possibly having either a dedicated position to manage this, and it could either be Parks and Rec or it could be another city department, but ultimately the goal is to transfer all this information from Google into a city owned or sponsored system that they can control and manage. So right now, because these are open source and freely available, these are what I'm using, but eventually in the future, I'm sure this will go onto a city owned system.
Yeah, I see this. One second, I see this going one of two ways, and the Parks Department is working on an app. So that when people know all the activities in the park and they know if there's where the bathrooms are in a park and everything is very park focused. And they asked if we could put public art in parks in there as well. And it will not only be informational, here's what's here, but if there are problems with it. So if people see graffiti on a piece of art, they can go into the little app and say, hey, somebody wrote something on this piece of art, or the lights are off this bathroom or whatever. And at the same time, we do have the URL was repurchased for Palm Springs Public Art. Was taken away, but it was repurchased, so we can do whatever we want with that, because it's the content that was there was not city approved, but it's now joined to the city website, so we can do that as a complete map, or we could do an app specifically. And then we could also then take this to Visit Greater Palm Springs, because they're always looking for content, and they want to do walking tours of public art. So this is the foundation, what she's done, which is amazing, amazing work. It's up to us how we think we want to take it the next step. Not at this meeting, but when this is in tighter formation, we'll get it on the agenda, and then we will make a decision how we want this to be funded, and then we will go to council and say we would like money from X, Y, and Z to do this, to promote the walkability, the beauty of public art in the city.
So the URL has been purchased. What happened to the content, including non-approved content?
It's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, the URL, the ownership expired, but we got it back.
And perhaps related, yesterday I was at an AIDS memorial luncheon at the Art Museum and fell in a conversation with Anne Shepherd. And I mentioned how, before seeing what you've already done, I did say that colleagues of mine on the commission were working on inventory and really going to town and figuring out stuff that was in storage as well, and extinction, all the rest. And she said, well, we did all of that. We had all that information.
That's what they used as foundation. It wasn't complete.
And she said it was in the possession of your predecessor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in an Excel sheet, which was the foundation of that. So I took all the information from that Excel sheet and put it on the map and then utilized other resources through the city and including looking through old agendas as well. I think I got as far as 2019. But yeah, well, as you mentioned about the art in storage, that's what I'm gonna touch on right now. So those two maps are for the commission to reference and to make decisions on our art in storage. And John and I went to the city yard to take a look at pieces that we were able to access in storage and to try and figure out where we can place them in the city. And so John is my scale model here because some of these pieces are rather large. So you can see this right
This
here.
is hat.
Yeah, and so this is the Impossible launcher. This originally was in front of the Skylight Hotel. It is in storage now. And as you can see, it's a very sturdy steel sculpture that I don't know how much weight it can hold, but it is extremely sturdy. And so I have a suspicion that people would be tempted to want to lie in it and take in pictures. And so we had originally discussed possibly to put it in downtown park, but I know Gary, you said that that might be difficult because of the weight restrictions and things like that.
In the location we discussed, it would be difficult, but Jay and his boss came to me with an idea of where to put it. So I'll be presenting that the next meeting, because I think where they suggested would be great, and since they already approved, the approval should be seamless.
All right. Well, I was visiting the city properties on the map and I figured, if launcher can't go here at the Desert Arts Center, that another art piece might be able to, just because there's a base there already, that I feel would be able to hold something there. I just felt that launcher would be good for that, just because the backdrop too would be kind of photogenic. So someone lying on lawn chair and then having the palm trees in the background as well. But as I said, lawn chair could go there, or unless the commission looks at the map, visits the sites and thinks of another location.
I will say that Francis Stevens is a historic park.
Mhm.
So anything that we put in there needs to be approved by the historic. And that pad there had a picnic table.
Mm.
That picnic table, for whatever reason, is not there.
A piece of art or just a picture?
It was a picnic table.
And
You
then,
can see. Yeah, it was, it might have been a picnic table piece of art, but it was a picnic table.
But that doesn't require that a picnic table be put back on it.
Technically it would,
Under
because
whose authority?
historic is. If the land is deemed historic when the building is, and everything that's there. When it was deemed historic, has to stay the same without approval. Including landscaping. And so changing it, you need approval. So we found this out when after we'd already moved a piece of art. They said, well, it's historic, it should have been approved. I was like, did you approve it going in? Like, well, no. I said, fine. So we're even, they're actually easygoing, but I would prefer not to have to add that other layer of approval if we have so many other locations for art.
exactly. And so, speaking of which, this is the other piece of art in storage. There's several, but this is a Larry Lando pinwheel. And as you can see, with our scale model there, John, the size of it, and just trying to find a location where pinwheel would be appropriate to go. I made it all the way up to the Palm Springs train station, and I saw that it is very close to the wind farms there. And so I thought that it would possibly be a good location to have an artistic representation of windmills to have there. The only concern with that location, as Jay and I were discussing, is since it is a train station, where does the city of Palm Springs property line end versus where the railroad begins? And then also another concern there was while I was visiting, they were literally digging the train station out of a most recent sandstorm. So it is prone to being buried, so if we were to consider putting pinwheel there, we would possibly need to put it on a high base, kind of like Batter in Sunrise Park, which is on a 6 foot tall pedestal. So that would be my recommendation if any piece of art would be going there.
I would, Pinwheel is a sophisticated piece of artwork. It's not bright, it's not large. I think it needs to be in a location that people will find it rather than having to hunt it out. It's kind of hidden up by the train station.
Isn't train or tram?
Train.
The train station, that's way up north.
Yeah.
So I would try
Nobody
to
knows
focus
it.
on, as much as we can, city parks and neighborhoods rather than going too much outside the city.
But it is fairly large and it is a large area, so it could be good for one of our other really large art pieces too, but like I said, it's an option. And that's just where I felt it would be nice to go. Let's see here. Go next page. And then this right over here is what is it called? Together again, the Marlene Lochheim pieces. So it's you can't really tell, but these are fairly large. This structure here is probably 6.5 feet tall. And then this is it currently in the city yard. And so this piece, these pieces are very large, very heavy. And they were originally in front of the Bank of America, I believe.
They were in front of Bank of America. Marlene's parents were major donors to the museum. They funded the administrative wing of the museum. And they also were outside the museum for a number of years. So there's 2 Jim Dine pieces now. So I think if we determine to refurbish these, which we don't know the cost yet, they probably should go someplace near the museum in the downtown park somewhere because of the family history and her footprint within Springs.
Yeah, and the most recent appraisal value I have for these art pieces is 80,000 for the pier.
That's what they insured at.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of them, the same collection in Palm Desert.
So
Gary, is the art owned by the city that's insured, is it one policy with an inventory of all the individual pieces, or is each piece individually insured?
I believe it's an overall collection coverage.
Yeah, it's pretty much an overall collection coverage in the city. Yeah, we collect the information each year and provide it to our risk manager, so I'm pretty sure it's all in one group policy.
yeah, and then these pieces, Gary, you mentioned you're not sure if they're
These are
actually.
in the art collection.
So we'll have to figure that out because they are in storage in the city yard, but these are by Scott Rocher. He's a very prolific public artist. And so these 2 road signs here are currently in the collection. However, Imagine Art here does have some substantial damage. You can kind of see here that it's been bent, and then there are some scratches here as well. So if we do determine that they are part of the collection, they would need to be repaired.
Those are the ones that I believe the art commission paid for, but they never really were formally accepted in the collection by council.
Are they displayed in a prior Desert X? They look familiar to me.
I was gonna say, weren't these installed on Palm Canyon? I know Imagine Art.
Yeah,
here
no,
was for
they
a while.
were on display, so that's exactly, but they were not technically part of the collection.
Yeah, so we'll try to figure out the documentation and how they ended up in city yard. But I was trying to figure out where to put these pieces, and I came into the mind of the shoot, my brain is fogging. This is the navigation center. Okay, so yeah, the new adult navigation center. Just because these sculptures resemble road signs, they do have to be placed some distance away from road traffic. And because of their small footprint, I figured they might be appropriate somewhere here in the navigation center and then for their inspiring message. But like I said, depends on the commission, if, you know, to determine where they're going to be. And then this monstrosity, well, I mean, large piece of art, you can see, right here, scale model John being dwarfed by this big piece. This is the Untitled Woods Davy, that was in the old, what was it called?
It's like Fashion Mall down.
Yeah, so that piece was there, and you could see it was buried at least 2 feet into the ground here. And so this piece, because of how large it is, would require substantial investment, I guess, with the city to relocate it, and just trying to figure out where we can put it with
So,
the
And I believe Homan has Woods Davy.
I just met with Davey
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. We had an exhibition with Larry Kagan.
So some of the pieces of the boulders have fallen off. Some of them are on the ground there. The challenge with this one in a city park is it looks like playground equipment. And kids will climb it, and I don't like kids climbing stuff with a boulder they fall on. The place where I thought this would work well is maybe in the front or some of the big grassy knoll areas of the airport. Because you're not gonna get a lot of people there, and it's one of those pieces that would be impressive when you drive by it, and it's just sort of. And Woods Davy is just he's a known artist. Tied to the gallery, so, and Jay and I had a call at the airport about something else, and I mentioned this and said, well, let's look at it. So I think if the airport is interested, we would get them to pay to refurbish it. But it needs to be in a location that people can't climb it. As we saw with Crawler, people will climb anything.
So the art that's in storage, the next step would be to determine, if it is public art, right, because of the sign, we don't know. If, how much it costs to refurbish those pieces, and if we actually want to keep them in storage, or if we actually want to put them someplace,
Well,
right?
they're still in our collection.
Mhm.
It's cumbersome to decommission something. It's easier to just not display it.
Right,
But for a piece like this that does have value, and we have a location for it. And the repair's not much. I don't think it's,
well, who would know? I mean,
yeah. But as I said, the repair won't be much, and but that to me is the sort of thing that we go to the airport, say, hey, you want this, you can get this great piece by a known local artist, but it's not money.
Do you know offhand the value of this?
This one, well,
It was like 60, I think.
no, it was a lot more, it was in the 6 figures.
I thought the Marlene Lockhart ones were the most expensive in storage.
Those two I know for a factor of 80,000, so this one is maybe slightly more than that. Maybe
But are
more.
these recent appraisals or are these just insured?
Yeah.
This was-
So-
Yeah, and what I asked about this piece and what happened is when basically the developer was tearing down this piece of building there, and they gave the city the lot this was on, and the city basically just picked it up and put it in storage. So,
As part of, once this is completed, are we going to reappraise all of the pieces and then it'll affect insurance and?
so the insurance that we have doesn't cover anything that's been installed for the past 5 years. Right?
It should be up to date. They've been tracking the purchase and installation of artwork, and those
So
are.
it has been updated?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do they deal then with stuff like this that was evaluated at 80,000 that's been sitting in storage for 10 years?
Unless it gets reappraised and determined that it's gone up in value, it's probably still listed as 80,000.
And think I saw on Palm Springs Post a reference to Mayor DeHart talking about improvement of access between downtown and the convention center.
Correct.
And are we aware yet of what spaces will be made available to us to fill with art? And would those be part of this?
I'm actually on the committee for that, for the improvement of Vallejo, Amato. It's the little street in between, I always forget it, I'm sorry, and then Topless.
And it's Andreas. Andreas is gonna be the big artery. Yeah.
Well, that's what a few people are fighting for, I'm not clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's been determined, but as part of what we're looking at, because I know they want it to be as much shade and art.
It's very exciting.
As possible, absolutely.
That's sort of 2 years away. In terms of where the commission would get involved. So, I don't see a piece like that going there. That's why you're asking.
Yeah.
So this is it needs to be kept away from public hooligans.
And so we were just talking about the steel bases here, so these are the horses.
Yeah.
And so they appeared during Desert X.
Yeah.
And so as Gary mentioned, they will be, once everything is approved, the location and the contracts with the gallery, they will, I'm assuming they're going to be restored, right?
No, they are aged naturally.
Oh. So is that what the city intends?
That's what the artist
The
intends to.
artist.
Yeah, they developed this patina naturally. And they're gonna stay that way.
So this is scheduled to go in, you said the wash?
These are gonna go on the Wash and North Riverside, near the pedestrian walkover bridge.
Mhm.
And we'll come back to that on the next 3 items,
Yeah.
right?
And then I just wanted to share this little anecdote here. So I actually was talking with the fire department on possible relocation of art pieces that are in the library. And they actually are open to receiving our Hero Red at the new fire station 4. So if the commission approves of that, then we can work with the fire department and get everything started. I don't know if we want to wait until the library starts the renovation or if we want to get this started now, but they are open to taking our Hero Red. Another piece in the collection, our Hero Blue, which is basically that, but a blue color, is currently outside of our station 3 next to Victoria Park.
Our Hero Red was, the library said they felt it needed a new home.
Mhm.
Apart from the renovation. And I believe maybe 6 commission meetings ago, it was determined it would go within someplace else within Sunrise Park.
Mm.
And the Parks Department has a location they wanted in mind, and they even suggested maybe near the dog park.
Mm.
So
How many I think you mentioned there's 154 pieces in that collection.
150. I literally just walked with Jay this afternoon through City Hall to take a look at what we had in here. So at the very least, there's 10 additional pieces that I'm adding. So currently on the map right now, there's 141. And then in addition to those pieces, once I verify they're actually art pieces owned by the city, I'll be adding them to the map.
So there's very few in storage, actually,
Just these ones, yeah, just these
it's
ones.
not that many.
And then the other 2 that are in storage that we weren't able to access was Frank Bogart sculpture and then popsicles, because they were in a closed off location. These ones were out in the fenced outdoor area that you could easily access. And then finally, I know it's a lot, Gary, but
Yeah,
so
we've got about 10 more minutes. We've got some other items to cover.
okay, so let's see here. So in my visiting the art pieces, I did do some condition reports on a few of them. For example, oh, what is this? Jay, is this, please move this one away from the share application.
That's Zoom.
But so I wanted to highlight, and then if you couldn't open this, I'll resend it. But I wanted to highlight some pieces that I felt needed some immediate care. This one over here, top priority is Wave Rhythms. This is in Sunrise Park.
I'm sorry, which one?
Wave Rhythms. That's the mobile.
Oh, that's the one that they spray painted penis, but they misspelled it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
The condition report here, there are various things that the sculpture has issues with. Sculpture is structurally sound, the mobile elements are moving without issue. I did notice a couple of bolts are missing from the base, but they're not overall compromising the structure, but obviously it would be nice to get it rebolted. The sculpture is marred by severe vandalism and graffiti in the form of permanent marker inscriptions and deep gouges and scrapes, stickers, and other trash are found around it. Modern efflorescence, which is mineral deposits from water, are at the base and on the bronze plaque. And recommendations are to repair the graffiti vandalism, polishing and remedy the efflorescence, and replace the bolts. And here are some pictures. As you can see, even from far away, you can see the deep scratches that are on the art piece right here.
So I recall when this had the graffiti, BENUS, and they also did the Boys and Girls Club. We did not have a repair person under contract at the time, and the anti-graffiti team did it. So it does need work. So
Yeah,
we can
so,
put it on the list, but we're not gonna decide tonight.
yeah, so this is just for the reference of the commission. Gonna try to go through these really quickly. I don't think I'll go through the moderate ones, just the.
Well, why don't you
We've seen
send
them,
these,
I've read them.
yeah, send them to the team rather than going through them
Yeah.
here, and then we can put it as an agenda item on finances and next steps rather than reviewing them here.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
Great. yeah,
Good
just let
work.
me know if you can't open this file and then I will resend it.
Great, okay.
Okay.
Next item, J, George Floyd mural removal.
Still stop sharing. Yes, Mr. Chair, I did reach out to the property owner again. At the last meeting, he let us know that he is waiting to hear back from his contractor on the condition of the boards. He was previously concerned that if he did attempt to remove them, the boards would fall apart and damage the mural. But he hasn't given any updates since that time.
Okay, so you can stay on him. The Wyatt mural. Have you received a signed letter of agreement from Richard Wyatt's, I believe his daughter?
Daughter, no, I did put in the request.
Yeah.
And asked if it was her or someone else who may be the trustee that we could work with to get written approval.
Yeah.
So that is in the works.
So we can't really do anything until we have that release. Next up, taming of the horses. Jay, what's going on with the contract for taming of the horses?
It's the contract is practically finished and it's gone back and forth.
I get it.
The gallery had some initial concerns. Our city attorney said, yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it had been revised. It's just a matter of maybe 2 more items being finalized, and then we'll be sending it out to them for execution.
Excellent. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Christine. Tot, new location. We discussed this a couple meetings ago. The Parks Department would like to move the Spider Bike Rack back to where what's originally Tot is. Tot is a charming little piece. It needs a place that's appropriate and it's not hidden. So has everybody walked over to Sunrise Park, walked by the swing center, looked at locations? And does anybody have a location where they think Tot would be perfect? And if you do.
That
do you
little
have-
creature.
I'm sorry?
Oh, it's adorable.
Yeah.
It's hidden there.
It's-
To stay at the.
It's not, it's not. In fact, somebody sitting in the room suggested that in the downtown park, the splash pad that's there
It
is
would be
being
great. yeah.
repaired. And he said, you could put it right in the splash pad. I'm like, that's a good idea. That's a really lovely
Yeah,
idea.
you definitely don't wanna take it away from water, cause it's basically like a little baby about to jump in the pool.
So, what I would suggest, because we don't have anything locked in yet, we don't even have when the splash pad will be fully repaired. If the Parks Department would like to move the bike rack as kids are getting into summer, we can put the Tot in storage if we don't have a location for it at that time, knowing full well we are going to be finding a place for it.
I do think it's interesting to think about having multiple pieces of art in the downtown.
Indeed.
In the downtown.
Yeah.
Because connects in a way to the museum. And it makes it a more interesting park in my opinion, to have multiple pieces, especially the differences between those three pieces that will be there.
Yes.
Which, depending on how you look at the Maryland plus Todd plus then the memorial, so.
I agree, and the proliferation of objects that Holman is placing in that alley, more and more, the whole area is got this energy, with multiple pieces.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about, I'll make it as an agenda item, for the next meeting. And I will send, some suggestions for where lawn chair can go, because I have two locations that are in my mind in the downtown park where it would be perfect. Based on Jay and his boss suggested this location, the downtown park, so we know they have their approval. And they will make it happen. And their name will be on the plaque.
One brief question, since we're talking about places we put our, and I forget the name for it, the large loop, the new bike trails, the new
Yep.
byways.
CD
that go
Link.
From CD Link, thank you. Do we have the ability to place art along it within the cities?
We could, I don't think we don't have enough art that we don't have locations for right now. Council is preferring us to do things in parks and in neighborhoods. That you want to be careful that you don't put art that is somebody's gonna ride the bike into. So we just have to be sensitive to that, but we're open to it, but it's just, I wouldn't put Todd there.
Gotcha, but there's direction from the council to prioritize parks.
Parks. They want it in parks. For the most part.
And does that include also the trailheads or the actual city parks? Because John could speak more about this, but Parks does have control over the trailheads, right?
Yes, not the trails themselves, but we oversee the trailheads.
Okay, so. Parks, because public art really is bringing art and creativity to people that may not have access to it. And be able to go into the museum, things like that. So, I think if it's a trailhead or a trail, it should be highly active. And as I said, certain, you look at the map you did, there's some parks that don't have much art in them. There's some areas, let's see, that don't have any art in it. So as I said, I don't think we're at the point where we're saturated yet. We need to expand beyond the city. Let's look at locations that could use some art.
Just real quickly, I was gonna ask this, 'cause I didn't see it. Is there an overlay of both possible locations and existing locations on your maps?
Possible
Do you have a map of locations the city controls where I can go?
yeah, that's basically what that second map was with the purple and green points. So that is because the city has owns those properties, the public art that we have can go there.
I understand. I'm just wondering if the overlay with where art is, so you can see what concentrations of pieces are.
We don't have that yet.
We don't have that.
No,
So
so
what
it's
would-
two separate maps
yeah.
right now.
What I would ask is, and we talked about friends, I think it would be good to have district markings on there as well.
We're trying to, I'm trying to develop that map. It's kind of hard on Google Maps cause I can overlay a map of Palm Springs, but in terms of the districts, that would have to be something that we build onto a map. So, and because of the nature of Palm Springs and how crazy the boundaries are, overlaying the districts, it's gonna take a little bit of time to put that on a Google.
We understand, but that's how we should be. Things like,
We may want to consider having that in our GIS system. Because then we could just overlay various types of layers, council districts. And existing art and art.
so I think like the piece we're putting in Barristo Park is probably the southernmost substantial piece we've done. There's nothing in the south end of the city.
Just the modern bike rack, but other than that,
And there's the fountain and coffee, but
I don't even know if that is that part of the collection. Oh,
yeah, it has the little plaque on it.
Public South.
Yeah,
They were painting a piece of presumably public art buy that copy over like the last couple of days. It looks like a butterfly. It's metal, the butterfly root mid-century modern house. Somebody was painting it, that's, you know,
No clue.
I asked the guys who were doing it, and they're like, we don't know, we just purchased it.
No clue.
Is that, it's the bike rack next to Coffee South, is it?
It doesn't look like a bike rack to me, but it could be.
Yeah, it's possible. Someone's painting it?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta investigate that, cause that's part of the collection, and it does need repair, but, you
Well,
know,
not even take it off the list.
well, we have to see who painted it first.
It's Moreno and Sons for the guys wearing the shirts.
Last item. Remaining lights for pillars installation, Jay. We have 2 more that we paid for the lighting nearly a year ago.
Right, and we're working on this. Another issue's been raised that these lights include yellow and green in a median, and that has raised some concern because the color may appear like a green light or a yellow light. So Flynn and I are working on the appropriate interpretation of the colors.
Yeah, I understand that. It's been that way for a year. It was approved by everybody and permitted that way. It was permitted with electrical in it. So, okay. Enough said. Okay, last item, Commissioner agenda requests and comments. And again, keep in mind, we cannot discuss specific things. So if you just want to put something out there, don't expect a discussion and keep it brief.
I would like to talk about plaques for all the current pieces of public art out there. I know that we talked about, we have $6,000 budget for signage. And we talked about replacing the plaques and based on the cost of one plaque, it's outside of our purview to do that, so. I can give you the numbers and we can sort of figure out which ones have to be replaced and which ones are okay.
Make that an agenda item for the next meeting.
And then, you mentioned that we could make the maintenance, for some of the inventory as part of the agenda next month.
One last point I want to raise is through the discussion of having the city do the platforms for Artscape. They said, you know, it would be more cost effective if there was a consistent foundation. But that much, and it's sort of like what you did with pillars, how it was a 6 foot by 6 foot pad for everyone. And we're like, you know, that's nice to know now. But we did not know that city would be doing this. However, something to consider moving forward is if once we look at certain locations where we think are going to be good for art, and we know we're moving the dragonfly sculpture near the Boys and Girls Club, near the piece that needs a lot of work, and we're going to create sort of art along that pathway, we may look and say, we think this needs 3 more pieces of art here. We can get the foundation pads in before we have the artwork, and the foundation pads are done. And as a way, it will be much more cost effective, time effective as well. So we need to be thinking that way rather than just, what art are we doing? 6 months. Okay. Any other commissioner comments or requests? Jay, report from the director and staff.
Just a reminder that June 17th will be the joint meeting with city council and all the other commissions.
And what's that date again?
June 17th.
June 17th, and that's the dinner?
Correct.
Great.
What time?
Fast for the day before.
5 p.m. 5 p.m.
Where?
Convention center. An email will go out.
Is it just a social thing or?
It's each of the commission chairs present your accomplishments of the year. Essentially. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's technically a city council meeting, so it's very formal. They're up on the dais. Brown Act, everything is read, so. We sit at a table together. Jay sits at our table and eats with us. That's it. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting of April 3rd,
To
2025. To, I'm sorry, public school adjournance meeting will adjourn the meeting on May 1st. At 5:30 p.m. the large conference room at Palm Springs City Hall located by 13.
Would somebody like to second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. See everybody at World Park Day celebration on April 12th, and then the dedication ceremony on April 15th.
Your taxes beforehand.
Public art is a tax. I think we should.